ready to be all God is calling you to be, because guess what? That's what it's all about today here on Hope Today, and we're so glad that you're joining us. I'm here with Tom Hollis. So glad to be here.
Oh, glad to be here too. It's going to be a great program. I'm really looking forward to our guest, and I'm looking forward to finding out, where is Amy?
Amy is in Seattle right now at a pastor's conference, and just excited to be with you guys today, excited for what God is going to do. I'm in an open area here, so people might come in behind me, but I tell you what, I'm excited for all that's going going to happen today. It's like life, isn't it?
There's somebody waving in the back right behind you.
Waving back there. That's great. Awesome. Maybe you can make you some coffee there while we're talking. But you're becoming CTV's Carmen Sandiego. You know, where we never know where you are.
Where in the world are we? Seattle is really neat, and it has that tough, cool feel like Pittsburgh. So I kind of feel like I'm home over here in the Northwest.
Well, that's great. Glad you could join us from there. And I'm so glad that our viewers could join us today, Sydney, because, if you out there, if you're a man or if you know one, so definitely somebody watching, you're going to be encouraged today. We'll be talking to Dr. Tim Clinton and exploring the topic of biblical manhood. What is it really? And is it under attack today? Because it seems like it's going to be a great discussion.
Yeah, I like that word, biblical manhood. I remember when I was in Philadelphia, my old church in Epiphany, that our pastor, that's what he would always talk about, the importance of biblical manhood, manity. So I think it's so important that men, are filled up and be all that they're called to be the leaders of their lives, the leaders of their home and of our communities, because we need men to stand up like never before.
Absolutely.
Tom.
And in fact, we have a scripture that kind of talks about that very thing. 1 Kings chapter 2, verses 1 and 2. When David's time to die drew near, he commanded Solomon his son, saying, I am about to go the way of all the earth. Be strong and show yourself a man. Sydney and Amy, I feel like I've got this legacy of good men behind me that I want to live up to. Yeah. And I see my son being a good dad, and a father, and it's exciting. And then hopefully that passes on to the next generation, to Henry. And it's important. It's important that we be who we're called to be as men.
And I love, Tom, you have such a great legacy of fathers in your life, and you're passing it down, because I know that it's such a broken part in our culture. There's a lot of men that grew up with fathers. There's a lot of brokenness. So it's so important that men understand what it means to be a man, not by the world standards, but how God defines them to be men, so that they can lead and be honoring to everyone around them. And Amy, what are your thoughts?
Well, think about this. David commanded Solomon. He's commanding him, hey, son, it's time to grow up, be strong, and show yourself a man. And I think in this culture, they're showing us what men should look like. This is man of the year. Here's what this man looks like. This family man looks like. This sportsman looks like. This huntsman man looks like. But I think we ought to go to God's word. And so I think today is going to be such an incredible, relevant, real discussion that will empower the men of God and will empower the women today. So I'm excited to talk about it. There's a lot of incredible role models in the Bible of great men. So I think we need to dive in there to see what real manhood looks like.
Yeah, and most of all, Jesus. Jesus says the example, right, of what a man should be. And, if you're watching today and you say, boy, we always have the prayer line available, and if you need prayer, but you might want to call somebody real quick before we get into it here and say, hey, this is going to be a great show, and you should tune in. But again, if you have that, Sydney, there's always people standing by for prayer.
Yeah, we always have prayer partners that are standing by, that love and care about you, because our heart is we don't want you walking alone, and we want you to be able to agree and stand in prayer together. So even today, if there is a man that's on your life, if you have a son or a grandson or your husband, call into the prayer line, and let's believe in prayer for God to manifest all that his plans and his purposes are for them to be, and that they can be healed and walk in the ways of God. Tom.
Well, it's going to be great, because our next guest has a strong message for men of God to step up and be who God created them to be. Dr. Tim Clinton is the president of the American Association of Christian Counselors, and one of our favorites here. He's authored and edited nearly 30 books, and in his newest one, he challenges men to rise up and take back their rightful place. Take a look at this.
It's no secret there's a beatdown on men. Anything that's masculine. From the radical push to feminize men, to changing the core of what it means to be a man. But God made man for a purpose and a reason. When King David was on his deathbed, passing the baton of leadership to his son Solomon, there's a lot he could have said to him. But he told his son these words: be strong and show yourself a man. You know why? Because he knew what was ahead of him. And it's because men matter, and they matter more than you know. It's time. Really, it's time to rise up. Some good news is that something is stirring. Something's happening all over the country and around the world. Men everywhere from every walk of life are stepping up, and they're crying out, God, I want my life to count. I want to make a difference. I want to be all that you created me to be. You may feel as if everything is lost and that this is your darkest hour, but God loves to meet you in your brokenness. He loves to use those moments to remind you of his presence and his power, to send you running back to him for hope and strength. Hear me. You're not alone. God is there for you. And there is a remnant. There's an army. There's an uprising that's happening. Now is the time to show yourself a man and take it back.
That is so good. Dr. Tim Clinton, welcome to Hope Today.
Hi, Tom. Hi, Amy. Hi, Sydney. What a pleasure to be with all of you.
Well, let me ask you, Dr. Tim. You know, there's a quote from early in your book that just struck me, and you have, it's time to rediscover the soul of a man. So could you tell, what have we lost? Where have we moved away from that we need to rediscover it?
You know, what's interesting, Tom, if you look in the literature, you look in the media, men get a bad rap. They're basically seen as porn addicts, distant fathers, horrible husbands, people who really don't care. They basically grunt or what have you, but that's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot of men whose souls are searching and stirring because they're looking at life. My mind goes to that. You remember that movie, Saving Private Ryan?
Sure.
At the end of that movie, there's that scene that I think everybody in the world, it's etched in their mind forever. He's walking through the cemetery with his wife, and he looks over at her, and after all this is done, all this history, he looks at her and said this: tell me that I was a good man. I'm telling you, when I get alone with men, I know they struggle with relationships. I'm not excusing any kind of behavior here. We'll talk about the difference between toxic masculinity and toxic behavior, because behavior is toxic, masculinity isn't. But tell me that I was a good man. That's when I ask dads, how you doing as a dad? You know what most men tell me? I think about it every day. Doesn't mean they're perfect, but I'll tell you what, there is a stirring. And this is a time, more than ever, for men to step up and into this moment. You know why? Because as that video said, men do matter. When you look at the research, it's profound about the influence and the gifts of a father, of a man in everyday life.
Yeah, you know, I remember Focus on the Family did some studies a while back where, well, actually they were just quoting a study where if there's not a father in the house, that leads to so many problems. I think it was how many prisoners there were that did not have a father in the home. It was an incredible amount. And this isn't to demean any single mother out there. They do heroic work, heroic things. But when a father's not there, there's all kinds of problems that result because a father's meant to be there.
You know, what's interesting is 92% of Americans agree that men or dads make a significant contribution or difference in the life of his children. Yet, the greatest social ill most people believe too is the absence of dad from the home, or the absence, I'll say, of godly dads from the home. But again, Tom, I agree with you. When you look at the research, for example, Meg Meeker quotes this often, when dad is gone, it profoundly influences decision-making with kids. For example, 76% of teen girls said that their dad influenced their decision on whether to be sexually active or not. We know now that fatherless daughters are 93% more likely to fail in their own marriages. You were referencing prison, the common denominator on death row, the common denominator, no dad. If you look at the influence of dad's emotional presence and physical presence with kids, his son, his daughter, they perform better academically when dad's emotionally engaged. They are better in their ability to handle peer pressure. You look at substance abuse, mental health issues, and more. When dad's present, it's beautiful, it works. When he's gone, when he isn't there, boom, it's devastating. I wish dads would know how much they mean. When we have our men's event, I can tell you this, we try to build an event filled with encouragement, you all, because it's like parenting kids. We need to catch men doing good and be affirmational. Stop beating them up. A lot of men don't like to go to church anymore because all they get is punched. It's just a beat down. When you come back and encourage them and then, quote, tailor to their gifting and more, a lot of men want to engage. They want to figure out how to make a difference. How can I matter? That's what I'm seeing. That's what's so encouraging to me when I look around and see men in everyday life now.
No, but I think you have a great point that men feel beat down, or, how can we as women support men? How can we cheer them on? What should we say? What should we not say?
I've found a lot in counseling, and I've done a lot of counseling with professional athletes and ministry leaders, just to have open conversation. Stop, being silent. When you look at most of our conversation at home anymore, it's pretty shallow. We don't talk, hey, how was your day? Fine, how was your day? What are we doing for dinner? What's on television tonight? But when you start engaging, I think when men start feeling safer, it's like women, both of us, when we start feeling safe, when we start moving into conversational stuff that matters, that stuff peels back and we can begin to say, hey, listen, I'm getting older. What are you seeing? What are you not seeing? How can I matter more to my own kids? What do you think I need to be doing more? And how do we create those emotional bonds or strands of connectedness? Virtually every man that I've talked to recently, Tim, I want to figure out how to get closer to God. I want to figure out how to get closer in my marriage. I want to get closer with my children. I want to be a better man. And I was just talking to a young man recently. I just said, you know what? You'd be surprised if you would just pick up the phone and say, hey, listen, let's have that conversation. Let's go there. You know what? Jump in the car and drive there and get into that conversation right now. You'll be surprised probably at the level of engagement that you'll receive back when you do that. I know it's a little dangerous, but when we get going, good things can begin to happen. I think we need to have these conversations inside the church and at home.
Tim, I love that so much, is that at the heart of a lot of men, they want to be better husbands, they want to be better fathers, they want to make an impact, but they just don't know how. And just something you touched upon that I know my husband and I, we talk about, is just the impact of not having a father present. They could be physically there, but the emotional connection and just spiritually not there, it really can devastate kids, and just like growing up and different things. So what would you say to that young man, or, the man, maybe he's in his 50s, that never had a father, doesn't even know what it looks like? Where does he begin to take back his biblical manhood?
A lot of, Sydney, what we wrote in the book was about that very narrative. If you feel lost, confused, maybe you've blown it, here's a word of encouragement for you. How to begin to think differently. What does it mean to reclaim biblical masculinity? How does God want me to live? How can I take on some characteristics that I think begin to demonstrate love and fidelity and safety in my marriage and with my kids, so that we can have these kind of conversations and we can emotionally engage? Here's the good news. If you just start taking a step in that direction, you'd be amazed at the level of change that will begin. And I think also encourage them to engage other men. The local church, we need to have events around the things that men love to do, not what we want to force them to do. No. Let's tailor a little bit more to their natural giftings. If they like working with their hands, they like mentoring, they want to take kids out on a trout stream, they want to teach them how to hunt. I grew up in Pennsylvania. I know what a lot of us, our men up there, like to do. They want to go to a sporting event or what have you. Get them outside. Don't force them into a different role, and then watch them begin to flourish a little bit. And challenge them on what does it mean to become a little more vulnerable, a little bit more open. Hey, by the way, if you've blown it, to say and have a conversation with your kids, hey, forgive me. As a dad, I've blown it. I blew it right here. Kids respond too. You know what? I can't imagine, well, having those little noses pressed up against the window pane when you're coming home, Dad, that's a beautiful moment. If you have that, I mean, that's what your soul cries out for. That's what you desire. If you want that, start pushing in that direction. My dad, and I don't know how much time we have left here in this segment, you all, but my dad was a pastor in central Pennsylvania for nearly 60 years. He was what Tom Brokaw called one of the greatest generation ever. He was a World War II veteran. He went over and served in the South Pacific on the USS Pennsylvania. My dad said he kissed the ground when he got back stateside. He was so happy to get home. And he wound up going back to his beloved town where he grew up, Du Bois, Pennsylvania. Said he saw my mother, who he had dated before he left for the war. She was engaged to somebody. When he saw her, she slipped her ring off. Next thing you know, he was seeing her again, you guys. And they wound up getting married. But he was so grateful that God spared his life in World War II that he told God he would serve him for the rest of his life, became a pastor, served faithfully up there. He was the kindest man I have ever known, you all. There are a generation of men out there who basically are feeling beat down because we're telling them that masculinity is horrible and all this stuff. No, they're good men. And there's a generation of young men who are stepping up saying, hey, I want to change the culture. I don't want my house to say, be like the brokenness maybe I experienced. I want to be a good father. I want to be a good husband. I want to be a good servant of Christ. And those are the men we want to challenge and encourage, because if we need men more than ever to help protect and provide and be strong, we need them right now. And virtually every woman I've ever met, my wife Julie holds women's events. You know what they want? They want the men in their life to be encouraged. They want the men in their life, hey, to what? Be strong and to grow in their everyday life and walk with Christ and at home. Why wouldn't we do this? We know the research is clear again that men really matter.
Boy, that is so true, Tim, and I appreciate that so much. And we're going to have a lot more with Dr. Tim Clinton about what is biblical manhood. What does it mean? What does it really mean to have, in fact, there's an area of personal walls that I want to ask him about when we come back right after this break.
Spending time with God is the most important aspect of our day. Through prayer, supplication, and reading God's Word, the Holy Spirit can play an active part in your life and reveal God's true purpose for you and your family. In his book, 100 Bible Verses Everyone Should Know by Heart, Robert J. Morgan shares real-life stories of how God changes lives through the power of memorizing Scripture. And now it's your turn to discover how God's Word can change your story and improve your walk of faith. You can live with renewed strength every day. Donate to Cornerstone Television Network and request 100 Bible Verses Everyone Should Know by Heart. To receive your copy, call 888-665-4483 with your gift of any amount, or go to ctvn.org/donate. We hope to encourage you one verse at a time. God bless you, and thank you for your kind gift to Cornerstone Television.
Well, we're back with Dr. Tim Clinton, and we're talking about take it back. Take back what? Take back biblical manhood. And Dr. Tim, you know, I think about all the people that are young teenagers, or maybe younger than that, young boys look up to athletes and actors and singers, and not that those people, they could be good, it could be a bad influence. But I think about just looking up to a person like my dad, who just went to work. You know, he went to work, he was a good man. He came back, he loved us, he loved his family. When you look at what biblical manhood is, you have something in the book about personal walls. What are healthy personal walls? Why is that so important for a man?
I think it's all about boundaries, Tom. understanding that everything in this life kind of works against what it means to be a man, to be a man who knows how to love and be loved, a man who is going to be strong and have influence in the life of a son or daughter, a man who will show them how much he loves their mother, a man who is unashamed to be strong in the Lord and to sing and have humility before the Lord. I think in this world, I think what we want to do, or what culture wants to do, is they want to wipe that image out. They want to take away the influence of a man, because if they can neuter men, they can pretty much dictate where the rest of the game goes. But if we have strong men who understand the difference between masculinity and toxic behavior. Behavior, yes, but a man after God's own heart realizes when Nathan talks to him and says, hey, wait a second, thou art the man. What happened? David, in his tenderness, comes back and writes Psalm 51 and says, God, listen, I've sinned. I've failed you. And he said, hey, restore unto me the joy of my salvation. That's what I think about when I think about men who understand what it means to, wholly follow after God's heart. And I'll tell you what, there isn't anything more beautiful in all the world, you guys, than to know that you're loved. I love the story of the little leaguer out in center field, waiting for the next play to come, and sure enough, a line drive gets hit out there. But when the ball gets close to him, he winds up dropping the ball. Missed the ball. And he winds up going in the dugout. Everybody was horrified, and the coach comes up to him and says, hey, what happened out there? And the little leaguer, red-faced, looked up at his coach, and he said, I was looking in the stands for my dad. He promised he would come. Here's what I would say. Young or old, male or female, we all look in the stands for our dad and consider his influence, his presence in our life, one of the most critical elements of who we are.
You know, as a pastor of 24 years, I've noticed in church that when a man comes into church and gives his life to Christ, the whole family changes immediately. Do men understand the impact and the importance and the influence that they have over their families and in our culture?
You know, what's interesting, Amy, is there was a piece that came out in Baptist Press a few years back. So let me quote this. It said, if children come to Christ first, there's a 3.5% chance the family unit will follow. It said if a mom comes to Christ first in the family, there's about a 17% chance that the family will follow. If a dad comes to Christ first in the family, there's a 93% chance that the family will follow. I don't know. I know this. When we speak to men and when we begin to breathe life into them and encourage them and remind them that they matter, you ought to see the energy that really starts to take place. When you see stuff like that and you begin to look at the research, just for example, on fathering, and when they hear it, it's like, after all the beatdown we get, that's what happens. And I think if we would, as leaders in the church, as leaders of people of faith who begin to see this, we would give a lot more attention to what's happening in the whole world of masculinity and fatherhood. And God be with us.
You know, Dr. Tim, that is so good. I'm so glad. I can feel the freedom just like coming right now. Like, hey, I can be a guy. It's perfectly fine for me to be the guy that God created me to be. Let me ask you about Jesus. If anybody was an example of true masculinity, biblical manhood, well, Jesus would be the example of that. Could you just give me an example out of the life of Jesus or something about his attributes that strike you in just the last couple minutes we have here?
Tom, you know that the Lord was the God-man. He loved well. He wept at the tomb of Lazarus. He drove the money changers out of the temple and said, this is to be a house of prayer. He honored women in a culture that didn't honor them. He went against everything, but he was also strong in his spirit. And he, by the way, said, Father, if thy will be done, hey, not my will, but thy will be done. Brought himself under subjection in that moment and went to the death of the cross because of his great love for all of us. He's our model man. When we challenge men, we challenge them, hey, be like Christ in everything. And I really believe this. My dad, one of my last conversations with him, he said, Tim, if you'll serve the Lord with your whole heart, I promise you, he will bless you. You'll be blessed. And he didn't mean monetarily. What he meant was your heart will be full, and your children and your children's children, they'll rise up and what? Call you blessed. Tim, that's what you really want. When my dad died, I said, if I can be half the dad he was to me, to my own kids, they'll be blessed, and I promised them I would do that. Think if one dad, as a result of reading Take It Back, would show up at the game, if one man would be a better husband, if one man would be a better servant of Jesus Christ, if one man would take it back and live for Christ all over again in a new way, that book is worth its weight in gold. That's what our hope and our prayer has been in writing Take It Back.
That is so good, Dr. Tim. Again, the book is called Take It Back, Reclaiming Biblical Manhood. And appreciate so much that you've written this, Dr. Tim. Thank you again for being on Hope today.
Well, I love being with you all. Hey, go Steelers.
Now there's a biblical man right there.
That's biblical manhood right there.
Thanks, Dr. Tim.
Thank you, guys.
Guys, this is, it's something that, the viewers know my father passed away recently, so this kind of all comes home to me, to see someone who exuded that and exemplified that to my family.
Amy, do you have any last final thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to say to all of the men watching, we celebrate you. We are cheering you on. Be strong. Be very courageous. God is with you. We are for you. There are more who are for you than against you.
I love that so much. And with Father's Day is right around the corner, we just need all of our fathers and our dads, and we just say, thank you so much for the men that you are. And I think it is so important, Tom, in this season. I just celebrate you as a man. Thank you for the leadership that you show through the show and through here at Cornerstone. We're thankful for all of you men out there that have tuned into Hope today, and even the women too. So we just encourage you men to be a man following after God's own heart. And Jesus is truly the example that you can live out that biblical manhood and take it back for him. Have a great day.
On tomorrow's Hope Today, seeking tips for a successful marriage? Husband and wife authors Royal and Kimberly L. McClinton provide practical steps for you to strengthen your godly relationship with your spouse. Don't miss tomorrow's Hope Today.
Cornerstone Television wishes to thank all our faithful viewers whose consistent prayers and financial support have made this program possible.